Hey everyone, and welcome back to Miss Meredith Made. Today I'm going to be sharing my January 2025 income report and comparing it to January of 2024. So just the 1 month, just January. I really want to break it down for you all and share what worked, why I thought it worked, and so on, so that you guys can hopefully take that as insight to help yourselves with your own store. So jumping right into it, in 2025 in January, so that it was January of this year, keep in mind too that my first full year of selling was last year in 2024, so I'm in my second year now. So I am basically comparing my first year ever on TPT and comparing it to my second year. So in 2024, I'm gonna start with last year, the total amount of sales that I had was $101.41. Sales this year jumped up to $181.80. Mind you that is the actual amount that I sold. And what happens is, because you're using Teachers Pay Teachers as a platform, they do take a cut because you're using them as a service for teachers to find your products. So in 2024, the commission that actually hit my bank account in January was $80.97. In 2025, this year's January, the actual commission that hit my bank account was $144.68. So my sales went up by a 79% increase, and my commissions went up by also just about 78.7% increase. So my sales and my commission nearly doubled between January of 2024 and January of this year, 2025. So I am quite proud of that, to be able to say that I saw, basically an 80% increase from January 2024 to January 2025. This is where things for me get a little bit interesting. So my views on my store in January 2024 totaled 1,687 views. January 25, my views were 1,701. So I only had 14 more views this year in January compared to last. So that is very, very minuscule. That is hardly anything as far as an increase for views. But what's interesting to me is in 2024, my conversion rate was 2%. And in 2025, this year in January, my conversion rate was 2.7%. So you may be wondering, what does that really even mean when people are talking about their conversion rates? Why do you care about it? Well, what that means is, when I had the 2024 conversion rate in January for 2%, that means that only 2 out of 100 people actually pulled the trigger to buy a product. So that means out of the 100 people, every 100 people that come to my storefront in 2024 in January, only 2% actually bought something. That means this year in 2025 in January, when I went up to a 2.7% conversion rate, that means just about 2 to 3 people out of 100 are actually buying. So it did go up. Now you might be thinking, wow, that doesn't really sound like that much. And it doesn't. But it's a little bit different when people are buying from platforms like TPT, or like if you're an Etsy seller, because a lot of people just browse. Truthfully, a lot of people are not true buyers on these platforms. A lot of people are strictly freebie people. They are hunting for free resources because, let's be real, teachers are in a hard spot. And I was a public school teacher myself, so I can say this. We just really didn't have a lot of money, or we were really, really lowly incentivized to buy stuff because we were already buying so much for our classrooms that it just felt like, oh my gosh, just another thing on my wallet to pay for my classroom. So a lot of teachers really try not to buy a lot, and they're just browsing and sourcing for anything they can get their hands on for free. That's why I try to do as many quality freebies as I possibly can without, obviously being detrimental to my own business. But you may think, the 2% conversion rate or up to 3 doesn't really sound that great. but it is actually very normal. So to give you food for thought, a 1 to 2% conversion rate is pretty much considered average, and a 2.5 to 3% conversion rate is considered good. So that's where I was in January 2025 this year. And then anything over 3% conversion rate is really considered excellent, just because of how it goes on these platforms. A lot of people just browse, a lot of people are just wish listing. So, as far as units sold, in 2024 in January, I sold 36 products. And in January 2025, I sold 46 products. So why I found this a little bit interesting was, my views only went up by 14 people total. Okay, that's according to my Teachers Pay Teachers dashboard. I'm not sure how accurate that really is, but either way, it's telling me that my views in total were not up by a ton, okay? But my conversion rate really improved, and the units sold, it wasn't anything crazy. It was 10 more than the prior year. But my conversion rate, that's actually quite a bit of an improvement, and I'm very happy to see that, because that means that the people that were coming to my store stayed about the same. Like I said, I only had about 14 more views this year in January compared to last year, but my conversion rate increased by a lot. So that means that the people that were coming were buying more. Pretty much static amount of people, but that group of people bought much more compared to January in 2024. So that was great news to me, because that meant to me that the work that I put in to actually update covers, thumbnails, previews, put in work to make sure that my titles were SEO friendly. That means search engine optimization. If you are unfamiliar with SEO, make sure that you research that. That's a really important thing. So at this time, I was putting a lot of work into products that I already had up there, updating them. And that's why I think that this is interesting, because it's not like I had a ton of extra products in there. I was focusing on the products I already had and really trying to perfect them. And what happened was my views stayed relatively similar, but more people actually bought, because they probably aesthetically looked a little bit nicer, truthfully, is what I think what happened. So with that being said, I went over my commission, my sales, my views, my units sold. And truthfully, if I have any advice to you, it really is to make sure that the products you're putting out there are eye-catching, because I think this really is proof to show you that even though my products were virtually, honestly, kind of similar to this point in last year, because what I did my first year was I was selling, or trying to create products and selling products about 2 months out. And so what happened was I pretty much had similar products for January 2025 versus January 2024. I maybe had 1 or 2 extra, but I take a good amount of time to actually create my products. I'm not the type of person that is chugging out products every single week. I know that some people have the time to allow that. I just simply don't. So this was really a great thing for me to see, considering the fact that I didn't have that much extra on my shelves compared to the first year. But I really hope that this does give inspiration, because I am working a desk job now. I do marketing for a small company. And on top of that, I do tutor, and I do run Miss Meredith Made. So I'm doing a lot, and I fit Miss Meredith Made into my free time. That's why this is very much a side hustle for me that I just happen to enjoy doing. It kind of started as a hobby that now I have to make some extra change on. So I enjoy that, but I hope that it is inspiring for people to know that you don't have to be working on this all day, every day for you to see an increase in sales. I think that the most important thing, if you are watching this, that you take from it is make sure that you are updating old products as you go, because I do think that TPT has something in their algorithm that they pick up on stuff that hasn't really been touched in a long time. So I think that it's just good if you go in and update titles, things like that, because TPT sees that as, okay, this product is updated, and then I think they push it out more. I really have no clear evidence for this other than what I just shared for you, because that is pretty much all I did for it to be this much of an increase. So take that with a grain of salt, but that's what my conclusion is coming to, because that's exactly what I did for this to happen. So nearly an 80% increase in sales from January 2024 to January 2025, nearly doubled my sales. If you want to continue seeing how my second year is going versus my first, make sure that you subscribe and make sure that you comment to let me know that you enjoyed this, or if that's even something you would like to see. And in the meantime, thank you for being here, and I'll look forward to chatting with you next time.